stuck. Wait, I'm on the wrong computer. Okay, about diseases then. I've been doing research for many years. My area of speciality was more in the nutrition, but when you do wildlife research out there, you often get to deal with other issues as well. And I'm going to talk a bit about some diseases, and I thought to bring in three, so an example of a viral disease like foot and mouth, and then one that's transmitted by bacterium like anthrax, and then a protozoal one, which is in this case a corridor disease, which is very much the same as African East Coast fever. Then, because of its prominence nowadays, when I look at tuberculosis, which is also a bacterium, and then a biochemical imbalance which caused also substantial mortalities called pancreatitis, and then lastly just Clostridium. It has caused quite a bit of mortalities in rhinos, but there's a lot of other things that have been causing mortalities in rhinos as well. So I want to end off with that. If we look at the foot and mouth disease first, well, it is it's viral, as I say. The mortality is low. They are carriers, and they carry it in many cases to, if they move around, to domestic stock. And if it enters domestic stock, it's just unacceptable for human consumption. So there's a worldwide pretty good control measures to prevent the spread of foot and mouth disease. There was about 4 years ago an outbreak of foot and mouth disease in the UK, and everybody went hysterics. I mean, they euthanized literally thousands of cattle as well as sheep. Okay, in our wildlife area, and I refer specifically to Kruger National Park, that is an area which is endemic for foot and mouth disease. You get it, and particularly in the buffalo. They are the carriers, and you see there, they carry it for long term, but they do not show any symptoms. The host is in fact impala, which is a smaller antelope, and they do show the effects. So there you see that impala, it's about the size of your white-tailed deer, and it's in our winter season, May to November. If you then see impala that walk difficult and they have a crouched back, you must just know this is an animal which has foot and mouth. And the policy then is to eliminate those animals out of the groups to prevent the further spread. The typical symptoms, and that's why it's also called foot and mouth. It's got these rock parts between the hoofs, and then on the gums and the tongue. As you can see there, there's various lesions. There's one thing wrong with that picture. Can you see what's wrong with that picture?
No one's wearing gloves.
Yeah? You guys are sharp. Yeah, that's a bit dumb. You shouldn't do those sort of things without wearing proper gloves. Okay, anthrax then. This is a disease which we view as having been, it's a typical wildlife disease. It doesn't lead to mass die-offs, but limited die-offs. And again, specifically in the winter time, and more so in browsers as opposed to grazers, those that eat the leaves. It's often also referred to as a population regulatory disease. It's caused by Bacillus anthracis, and it's pretty much contagious. It usually, when the animals do get it, they die fairly quick, and I'll show you a few examples, what happens and how it is transmitted. There's basically three ways in which it's transmitted. It's through vultures and scavengers, and then blowflies, and then that's basically the two major ones. The other one is not so important, but we'll get to it. Okay, so when you do find a carcass that has, or an animal that died of anthrax, you shouldn't open it, because then you release in the body fluids all the spores, the bacteria that will form spores and will be lying in the soil, and it can lie there for many years. There you see what they look like under the microscope, and there you see the epidemiological cycle, the kudu blowfly, the vulture, the carcass, predator one. Okay, this is of a lesser course, but we'll look at it. Okay, there you see then the a carcass. Now, a typical carcass, when it starts in decay and it starts rotting, you get these blowflies. And the blowflies get on it, and they eat the rotting meat, the juice. They sort of suck it up, and then they fly. When they're saturated, they'll fly, and they're going to sit on twigs and on leaves in the neighboring vegetation. And typically, they either iterate or they defecate this stuff onto the leaves. You can see that now that's on the leaves, and those droplets of blood that they then leave on the leaves, like all these red spots, is absolutely packed with the anthrax bacterial spores. And kudu and bushbuck are browsers, and they'll walk around and they'll eat these leaves. So they're going to get masses of this anthrax bacteriums in. So they will die. Now, if we look at the vultures, then the vultures like to feed on these carcasses. They've got strong beaks, strong necks, and they'll open these carcasses, and then they'll stick their necks right in it, and they'll start feeding. And their whole neck and head gets covered in blood and goo. And typical of vultures, once they're dirty and full of this stuff, they want to go and take a swim and wash themselves. So then they spread all that bacteria into the water, and there's many animals that walk into water, like you see there, zebras and buffalo. They walk into water when they're thirsty to go and drink. So there goes the cycle. So then they get infected also. Predators are in general less susceptible. They do, but they develop quickly their resistance. When it's the first time that the lions will feed, lions are also opportunistic feeders. They will go, if they find a dead carcass, they'll just simply go for the dead carcass and won't bother to go and catch something if the meat is right in front of them.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're welcome. I'm hungry. Okay, so when they do that, then you see that they swell, particularly the parotid glands, which is the saliva glands on the bottom end of the ear. Are you looking for something specifically?